Welcome back to your channel for long-range shooting and all related subject matter. Today we're going to discuss data cards, or data on previous engagement, or DOPE cards as they're commonly known. We'll talk to you about why you should have one, what the advantages and disadvantages are, and lastly, how to create a hasty DOPE card without wasting any ammo. Before we get into it though, please make sure to ding that bell, subscribe, and leave a comment below if there's a question or observation you have about this video. Thanks for joining us here in the frozen wasteland of eastern Idaho. We're here to talk to you about why you should have a DOPE card for each of your long-range calibers, what the advantages and disadvantages are, and lastly, how to create a hasty DOPE card without wasting any ammo. Reason number one is because electronics fail and remain susceptible to things like EMPs, coronal mass ejections, and battery limitations, for example. There are also software glitches and just plain, out of the blue failures. So with those reasons alone, there's enough justification to create DOPE cards for your rifles and calibers. There's some real advantages and disadvantages of DOPE cards though. The disadvantages include not being able to use precise algorithms which can instantly calculate all measured and inputted effects on trajectory, for example. These include the Coriolis effect, spin drift, changes in barometric pressure, and so on. So long as all of the inputs are entered correctly into your Kestrel Ballistics program and wind is accounted for correctly, you will have an accurate solution. Now, there is a lot of room for input errors, so that is a strike against the computer algorithm and an advantage of the manual solution. These solutions remain extremely accurate outside of where manual calculations start to crumble though. That's why we use Kestrels. Manual calculations are limited to an extent that becomes more obvious over greater and greater distances on the other hand. Algorithms do hold some limitations, like I said, and do take some work to correct in some cases though. This is getting outside of the realm of this video though, so I won't be talking on that today. The other disadvantage to manual calculations can be the difficulty of making manual calculations unless you've been doing this for 30 years like some of our instructor crew have been. Then I'll say it's a challenge to use a Kestrel in the time it takes them to calculate solutions manually. By the way, we do teach manual methods and a lot more on our courses at rangetech.us. There are 5 main advantages to DOPE cards and the resulting manual calculations. The first advantage of manual solutions or calculations is we already have the mentioned lesser room for input errors. Second is the fact that there are no mechanical or software parts to fail. Third is impervious to EMP, coronal mass ejection, etc. Fourth is less equipment like batteries and less weight. After all, ounces equal pounds, remember. Fifth is speed of use. You can look at a DOPE card and instantly see your elevation and windage adjustment for the distance. But there are several disadvantages though. These include the following 5 issues. Lack of accuracy past a certain distance, difficulty in collection of accurate data points from testing, expensive ammo used, lack of correction, or more accurately stated, difficulty in correcting for effects like the Coriolis effect. User input error is another one, and the difficulties I just mentioned may be related to you, might take several trips to correct. There's also light and atmospherics that can interfere with gathering accurate data, for example. So let's talk about how I create a hasty and accurate DOPE card, and then I'll talk about the last disadvantage and how to account for it easily. Like most people, I'm a bit lazy when it comes to certain things like making DOPE cards. I personally prefer to use my Kestrel Elite to create these cards quickly. First off, I realize not everyone has a Kestrel Elite, so let me mention that you can buy the Applied Ballistics app for your phone for around $50. If you think this is expensive, you're in the wrong hobby and might want to take up golf or tennis. This is a pay-to-play type of activity. Back to the method of creating dope sheets from the Kestrel Applied Ballistics program though. First of all, I do a fair bit with the Kestrel, and I do confirm my data is correct using the program prior to creating these sheets. So I'm going to make that caveat. Like you probably have done without too much thought in the past before. Once I'm done this though, I create my dope sheets from my range cards within Kestrel's Applied Ballistics program. I do several things though. First off, I set the altitudes and atmospherics I am most likely to go out in. For example, I live at over 5,000 feet elevation, so if I want to create a dope sheet, I need to make certain that my inputs are for the conditions I'm most likely to see at this elevation. There will always be some error though once you get outside of that elevation, but it will be insignificant to a point that it doesn't really matter. However, I also hunt at 10,000 feet elevation, so I have to create a card for that as well too. And in the end, this can lead to having a whole bunch of cards for different elevations, calibers, and so on. But once I am certain that I have all the inputs correctly, I take that data, I transfer it to my Write in the Rain notebook, and I use a pencil to print on that waterproof, durable paper. Regular paper obviously is going to be destroyed the first time you're out in damp conditions, so I wouldn't bother with it. Pay the $5, get that small notebook and one of their pencils. And again, pencil, not pen, because if you ever need to make a correction later, it's easy enough to erase something and do it again. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to fire me an email below through rangetech.us. I also will say we're offering private courses in long-range shooting and a whole myriad of other things, and I hope we'll see you in the coming year.